Science Beetle.
A little bit about the structure. So let's go ahead and take the element oxygen, and essentially let's go ahead and draw the structure, what the oxygen atom would look like. And essentially, if you recall, oxygen has, I'm going to go ahead and draw it here in terms of its periodic table chart. So pieces of information that we need to know is we need to look at this number here, and we need to look at this number here. So recall that the number at the top, this 8, is going to be the atomic number. Okay? And the number at the bottom, the 15.994, is going to be the mass number. All right? Now, I want to show you a little bit of a trick before we go further. If we take the atomic number and we subtract the mass number from that, or rather, if I take the mass number, okay, and I subtract the atomic number from that, the number that I'm going to be left with is going to be the number of neutrons. That's very important to know, because it kind of explains some stuff. When I talk about these things, it kind of explains why certain elements have a X number of neutrons and others don't have any. Okay, so this is a very quick way that you can actually identify how many neutrons are going to be in a particular element. So if I have these here, and if I take the atomic number here, and I substitute it, so let me go ahead and kind of just use this and color code it. If I take the mass number and substitute it here, essentially I'm going to have 15.9994 minus, and if I take the atomic number and substitute it here, minus 8 should give me some number in terms of neutrons. Right? And so if I do this, this is essentially 16 minus 8. So 16 minus 8 we already know is going to be 8. So we know that this particular, the structure that I'm going to draw for oxygen is going to have 8 neutrons, and it's going to have 8 protons. All right? And so let me go ahead and draw that structure for you. And so the structure here would be, let me draw my protons first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And I'll go draw my neutrons in blue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And if we did that, then essentially I have to look at the orbitals. And so the way we figure out the number of electrons here is we're going to take the mass number, which is going to be 15.9994. Let me just write that here, 15.9994. And from here, we're going to subtract the number of neutrons that we just calculated. And this is going to give us essentially 8. So we're going to have 8 electrons present in the structure. And so we first start filling up in the first orbital, and there's 1, 2, and then we go to the second orbital, and then we're going to have here a total, we have to put a total of 6. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so essentially, if you think about this here, we've got 2 empty spots for oxygen, but essentially this is the structure here. And since one thing that I didn't draw it here perfectly, but what would have happened is, if we want to make sure that we go ahead and put the grouping. So let me erase this here, make sure that the electrons are all spread out in such a way that we would still get them to fill their respective spots in terms of energy levels. But essentially what you're left with is one void here and another void there. And so those are your 2 missing spots for electrons. And if you look at the oxygen, for example, oxygen tends to have a -2 charge. -1, -2. It's missing 2 electrons. Okay? So that would be the structure of an atom there. Key parts that I need to point out to you is there's 2 general parts. The first part I'm going to go ahead and circle in purple here, but essentially you've got the nucleus, which is at the very center. Okay? So this is going to be the first part of an atom. And the secondary part is going to be on the outside, where all the electrons are. Okay? So all this section out here is going to be the second part. And I'll just put this down here, is where you've got the electrons. In other words, we often call this the electron cloud. But those are the two general parts that are associated with an atom. So let me go ahead and write the two main parts of the atom. The first part's going to be the nucleus, and the second part is going to be the electrons. The nucleus is composed of two parts, and the first part are going to be the protons as well as the neutrons. Okay? And other information that you should know is that the protons are going to be the positive charged subatomic particles, and the electrons are going to be the negatively charged subatomic particles. The neutrons do not have any charge, and so those are going to be what we call neutral. That's why they're called neutrons. Okay. Other items that you need to know about at this point, and I just want to briefly go over this, is going to be the mass associated with each of these. So when you look at protons, protons are going to have a mass of 1.673 times 10 to the negative 27 grams. Electrons are going to have a mass of approximately 1.63 times 10 to the negative 26. And then the neutrons are going to have a mass associated with it of 163 or 65 times 10 to the negative 27. So those are some of the things that you need to know about with respect to the atom. It's got two main parts, the nucleus, the electrons. The nucleus is composed of protons and neutrons. Protons have positive charge, electrons have negative charge, and these are their respective masses. And so that's the basic structure of an atom. Hopefully this lesson was helpful for you. Check us out in the next lesson, where we're going to go through and kind of talk a little bit more about how we go and calculate neutron calculation. And so I'm going to mix it up in terms of trying to figure out the number of neutrons in an atom, if I'm giving the mass and the proton number of 1, or if I'm giving the number of neutrons and I'm giving a mass, what is the overall number of protons? And so I'm going to mix it up in the next one, kind of give us some sample problems so you can get some help in trying to solve these. All right? Go ahead and subscribe us and check us out next time. Bye-bye.